All right, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday, November 19th, 2025 meeting of the Northampton Preservation Committee. Tonight, our main agenda is to look at five proposals that are in front of us and make recommendations to City Council on funding those proposals. Those five are the Mineral Hills acquisition, the baseball scoreboard, the 27 Crafts Avenue project, the pump track, and the Pioneer Valley Habitat um, uh, project on West Hampton Road. Before we get to discussion of these five projects, as always, we begin our meetings with general public comment. If anybody out there has something they would like to say about CPC, about these projects, or about anything having to do with this committee, now is your chance. Anybody? Sarah, are you seeing hands?
Yeah, Chris Stratton.
Yes. I'm not hearing or seeing him.
Yeah, right here.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Sorry.
I know last week was the real public comment on projects, so I just want to take just a minute of your time. I am presently a private citizen of Northampton, but in the coming year, I will be serving as the city councilor for Ward 6. And given that, I just want to say how excited I am about the expansion of the Mineral Hills Conservation Area. I mean, I'm very familiar with the existing conservation area, and this is a great augmentation to that. I really look forward to, working with city conservation people, on the trails there and, publicizing that, leading tours, etc. So this is really exciting. And that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and congratulations on the campaign, and look forward to working with you on City Council. Anybody else? The general comments? No? Okay, moving right along, we have approval of minutes. Sarah, I didn't see any minutes come through. Is that correct?
No, I forgot to send them. Apologies.
Okay. Well, we will get them next time, I'm sure. Turning our attention to the financial report. Sarah sent that out, I want to say yesterday or something. I'm sorry, before that, chair's report. Sorry, jumping ahead a little bit. Just a few quick items I wanted to share with people, and we'll go from sad news to glad news. The sad news is that Dave Rothstein died. He was a member of this committee. Some of us served with him. Devin, I believe you did. Martha, I think you
Yeah,
did.
I was going to say tonight that he was the person who created the small grants program. Remember that?
Correct. Yeah. So it's with great sadness we mourn his passing. Those of you that made it up to Art in the Orchard on Park Hill will notice one of his creations up there, a very whimsical, ephemeral piece of a straw Volkswagen. He was on his way to do an international snow, or is it ice carving competition, when he died. So thinking of him and thanking him for his good work on this committee. That is the sad news. The glad news is that Devin and I attended on Monday, and I don't think anyone else was there from this committee, the sort of the grand opening of Prospect Place.
I was
You were
there.
there as well?
Yes.
I missed you. My apologies. The grand opening of Prospect Place, the 60 units of affordable housing on Bridge Road.
That's amazing.
And it was really pretty spectacular. Devin and Paul, feel free to comment. There was standing room only. All the seats were taken. There are a number of dignitaries there speaking passionately about how wonderful our commitment, our being the city's commitment, is to affordable housing. That a lot of folks say, oh, yeah, I'm all for affordable housing, just not here. When we say we're all for affordable housing and we want it here. And it was really heartwarming, I thought, to listen to the speakers and to go on sort of a self-guided tour of some of the units. They're beautiful. They are they go from studios to 3-bedroom apartments. There are ones for disabled folks. They are light, they are airy. There's common spaces everywhere in the halls, these cute little nooks and crannies. There are meeting rooms. It's got geothermal, it's got solar, it's energy efficient. It's got a nice playground for kids. It's got well landscaped. It's just everything we want to see in an affordable housing project. It's close to the bike path. It's close to Stop and Shop, to Walmart, to all of these to Jackson Street Elementary School. 4,400 applicants for the 60 units, which is really pretty stunning when you think about it.
Yes.
But again, it was really, really great to see sort of the fruit of our partial labors. We gave or recommended $664,000 to the project, and that really leveraged, that getting in on the ground full, giving money demonstrates a local commitment and allows projects of this size and amount of money to move forward. So I thought that was really wonderful. Devin or Paul, anything you want to add to that?
Well, Lindsay Sabados and Joe Comerford both spoke to what a united effort this was. And there were 19 different funding sources to make this happen. And the director of the Executive Office of Housing and Livability in Massachusetts was there. And he said, this is actually the template for how to do it throughout the Commonwealth. This is the showcase. So that was really inspiring.
Yeah, it was really, really quite a wonderful morning, and a nice article in the paper that the Gazette did
Yep.
in yesterday's paper, and a nice shout out from the mayor as she spoke to CPC for the work that
Yes.
we did. Bill, do you want to have a
Yes,
comment?
I just wanted to say thank you. I'm the project manager for Prospect Place on behalf of
Yeah.
Valley. And it's been a extremely challenging project, a long project, and it's one that required a lot of funding. And we were able to leverage a lot of state funds and federal funds for the project that the CPA committee was instrumental in being that early funds, as you noted. Um, Happy to answer any questions too regarding that project, since I am on the call, but I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, Bill,
Okay.
this is Deb, and you should take a bow. That was just everybody's talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly thank you for all of your work. And Bill, you say, oh, it took so long, but it's spectacular, at least to me, to have gone to the project, I think it was 2 years ago, and looked inside and saw really, it's like, what? How is this adaptive reuse actually going to happen? And in less than 2 years' time, it's a remarkable transformation.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for your work. Another good news, glad news, is for folks who had a chance to look at the Hampshire Gazette in today's paper. There was a really nice guest column from Wayne Fiden, Protecting Northampton's Landscape of Shared Value. And I thought if you have a chance to read it, please do. He makes a really sort of articulate and passionate plea for the shared landscape that we have and the shared values that we have and our protection of land in the valley. Wayne Fiden, for those of you that don't know, is the former director of the Northampton Planning and Sustainability, and he sort of makes a plea for money at the end to donate to the Northampton Conservation Endowment. But a really nice, and he calls out again, not calls out, but gives a shout out to the CPC for the work that we've done in protecting land. So those are nice to see. Okay, moving right along to the financial report. Sarah, are you able to pull screen share? I know you've been having some
I think
issues.
so. I've been having some weird technical glitches with Zoom when I screen share. So if I disappear, I will be right back. Hopefully I do.
Sarah can give us one more quick rundown of our budget.
Right. So
Yay.
okay, I'm still here. So that's good. So financial overview for fiscal year 2026. We got the final announcement of our state match for the fiscal year. We always try our hardest to estimate a dollar amount that will be accurate, but we're always a little bit under DER. DOR is not great at releasing initial estimates that make a lot of sense. So it was $35,367 that won't be available to be spent until fiscal year 2027. After the debt service and other carryovers, we're left with 1.95 million and a little bit extra for spending for the fiscal year. And that also includes $17,912 that was just returned from the Smith Charities 51 Main Street Rehabilitation Project. So if you look at location of available funds, bulk of them are in the budgeted reserve and can be spent on any type of project. Some of the small grants proposals were drawn down from the open space reserve and the historic reserve, so those are a little bit less. And Brian asked me to take a look at bonding capacity and current obligations. So this sheet provides an overview of that, just to let you know what's going on for this year and the upcoming fiscal years. So current bonding obligations, as we know from the financial transfers, earlier this fall, were just over 495,000. And that represents about 39% of the current bonding capacity. And that carries over through the next year as well. We do start to drop off in fiscal year 28 when some borrowed projects will be fully paid off. But there are still some significant payments that remain to be made. And if you look at the bonding obligations tab, that lists everything that's been out to bond. This note that the Lead School Playground has not yet been bonded out, so that's not reflected in that other tab, but an estimate of $82,000 annually for fiscal years 27 through 31 is included here, which is a good guess, but is not the final amount. Any questions on that?
Sarah, can you quickly take us through the bonding obligations, pull that up?
Sure.
And
So this
scroll-
shows everything that's been bonded out and the principal and interest payments that are due at different times of every fiscal year. So most of these have been paid off. We're down to the final few years for a few of these, the Pulaski Overlook and Bean Allard. Final Bean Allard payments will be made this coming December. And then we start to pick up the recently bonded projects, so the JFK Courts and the Ryan Road Playground. And again, Lead School is not reflected here, but will be when that bonding is actually completed.
Questions for Sarah? Chris Hellman.
Hi, thanks again, Sarah, for your great work. This is always really helpful to have. I noticed when you're on the bonding capacity slide, it lists the percentage of our available bonding each year. Currently, we're operating at about 39% of our bonding capacity. I know this is anecdotally, I don't know if you keep that, but how does that compare historically to times where our bonding capacity has been, upwards? Have we ever exceeded, say, like 50% or to best of your recollection?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't have that immediately available, but I can definitely pull it up during the meeting and get back to you. I think it has been higher than it currently is.
My sense was when we did Pulaski, it was higher, but I was just curious
I
if
believe it was because we had
Yeah.
We had several really large projects that were
right.
all
We were still paying the
at
bean
one time.
field and all that stuff. So, but yeah, and I mean, yeah, just if we have it, it'd be great to know.
Yeah, I can pull that up. in a little
Okay,
bit.
thank you.
And Sarah, clarify for me one more time. You have one bond that's not been issued, but do you have an estimate for it in here, or is that to be added on?
Yeah, so that is reflected in this table, but not the bonding obligations tab. So there's different ways that projects can be bonded out. You can do flat payments, or you can do different types of principal and interest. So I assumed, based on a prior estimate that we had from bond counsel, $82,000 annually for 5 years. And it may end up being less than that. Sometimes the rates are really favorable for, 3 or 4 years, so we don't do the full 5 years. So this is just a guess at this point for that project.
Thank you.
Other questions for Sarah? Sarah, with her screen up, I can't see everybody. I don't know if you can see folks. Any other Sarah questions? Paul?
Is it true that the state match is now down to 18%?
It's a little bit, yeah. I mean, yes, for some communities. So Northampton has the maximum 3% CPA tax. So we get additional surplus distribution. So we get 3 extra little rounds of state match allocated to us. So Northampton's is more than that. I can calculate what it was for
Okay.
this year, but it's more than 18%.
It's significantly down
Yeah.
over the years. It progressively decreases.
Yeah, and when the CPA first started, everybody got 100%. But
Yeah.
there were far fewer CPA communities, so there
Right.
was not as much competition for limited funds at that
Yeah.
point.
Okay, thanks.
Sarah called our attention to an article in her email talking about this decrease in state revenue coming in. And part of it is declining revenue from real estate transactions that's
Right.
gone down significantly, as well
Right.
as we get a smaller piece of the pie because so many more communities are in it. So those two factors account for that decrease. But
Right.
nonetheless, we're still picking up 393,000. So we're still getting money coming in from the state. Other questions for Sarah? I have another one, if I may. Sarah, can you pull up the fiscal year 26 overview tab? I'm sorry, screen share again with us and pull that up. Oh, hi, Jeff. Great. Thank you. And can you scroll down to the round 1 projects? There we go. Or actually scroll up just a little bit. I just wanted to make sure I'm understanding that we have really no historic preservation projects this round. So if we were to fully fund everything, we would have somewhere around 300,000, maybe a little less than 300,000 left for the spring. 251,000 of that is earmarked in the historic reserve. Is that and cannot be used for any other kinds of projects? Is that correct, Sarah?
Correct. And if no historic preservation projects were submitted for the spring round, that would carry over to fiscal year 27.
Okay. So is everybody clear about that? Everybody understands that? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Sarah, for clarifying that for me. Any other questions for Sarah before we get going? Okay. So
Just one addition, the final state match was 21.1% for this year.
great. Thank you. So now's the big night where we discuss and hopefully can approve recommendations to send to City Council. We have approved 3 small grants: the Pollinator Garden, the Coolidge Desk Restoration, the Mill River Greenway plantings, and now we're looking at 5 considerably larger grants. Folks listening in that are not on the committee, please know that we've had a chance to read the projects, hear from project applicants, and then hear public comments from folks. So this is a chance for the committee to deliberate on all that we have had a chance to read and listen to in the last month and a half. What has worked, I think, well for us in the past is to begin the evening with just a go round with people sharing in a general way how they feel about these 5 projects. There may be ones that we have very little disagreement or we are in consensus about immediately, and there are ones that we may not be, and this gives us a chance, I think, to figure that out. So I think what I would suggest that we do is to go around and have everyone just state how they feel about these five projects, if they're all in on any general comments that they have about any of them. So without further ado, if there are no objections, I think we will do that. It's worked well in the past. Yes? Okay. So I'm going to go around and just looking at the way that I'm seeing my screen. I don't know how other people's screens come out. Devin, you're first on my list. You're muted, Devin.
No, I muted me. Goodness. The Craft Avenue CDC project, it's a housing project. It's proven to be a good project, and I valued very much someone who used to be on CPC with us, uh, Bill Breitbart, giving his opinion on it mattered to me because I know Bill's worked in that his whole life. And so I'm definitely in favor of fully funding that project. I was not as excited about the pump track until we went through our discussions. And I went around town trying to learn about how to make one of those bike maintenance stations because we have a chance to put one at Forbes. And so I went around to the different ones, the bike shops, and there are four other of those stations around town. The two downtown don't work. So I hope the people putting in the pump track might find their way to make one. But the enthusiasm around town about that idea has definitely affected my opinion about it.
Devin, I'm sorry, can I interrupt you for one moment?
Sure.
Sarah, I want to give the late breaking news on the pump track and share that because that may inform people's decision making and comments about that.
Sure. So discussions with multiple departments in the city and the pump track proponents as well have led everyone to decide that the best way to move forward with the pump track would be that to award any funds that the CPC decides to recommend to the Parks and Recreation Department rather than the cycling club nonprofit that's brought it to this amazing stage with all of their hard work. Now it's going to be proposed in a city park. There's procurement requirements that have to be adhered to and construction requirements. And the best way to do that would be to have the funds allocated directly to the Parks and Recreation Department, similar to the Ryan Road and Lead School playgrounds, where the application and the enthusiasm for the project came from a group of teachers and administrators at each school, but it's the city's school department and central services department who oversee the project and receive the funds and issue the contracts for general contractors and subcontractors.
Questions to Sarah about that? And it's actually quite a big change. The applicant is not the cycling club now, but the cycling club along with Parks and Rec. And Anne Marie from Parks and Rec seems to be all in on the project. And
yeah, and she's planning to join us, but she had a commitment until a little bit later this evening.
And
I would go along with that, but I would just say that catches me off guard. The cycling club has put in 2 years worth of energy into this, and they can follow the city rules and they'll get the inspections done that need to get done. And I think that I want them fully vested in the project. So I don't want to get to this point and then block the door on them. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it's not that at all. It's not a change in the project. It's just administratively who gets the money and where does it go. But it's the Parks and Recreation Department implementing fully what this really dedicated group of volunteers has been able to accomplish. It's only an administrative change. It's not a substantive.
And who made the decision?
Cooperatively, city procurement, mayor's office, Parks and Recreation, DPW.
Okay. Well, I can't argue with that.
Julie?
Yeah,
Julie?
and Devin, in Parks and Rec, we have a lot of these private and public partnerships for the way that we're managing our areas. So if you think about the riverfront, that's a private public between us and Northampton Rowing Club. Up at the pickleball courts now, private public between Friends of Northampton Pickleball and Parks and Rec. And this would just be another one of these private publics for one of our Parks and Rec facilities, in this case with the cycling club. So it has worked out really well, and it helps to facilitate a lot of the communications because it's not just Parks and Rec. As soon as you're talking about our parks, it's also DPW. So there are so many players in it that I think when we had a quick conversation about it, it makes sense to do it this
Okay.
way.
I accept your opinion. I hope the cycle club feels that way too.
Yeah. Uh,
I'm getting a thumbs up from John Brody, who was in conversation with Anne Marie. I know about this and is supportive of that.
Good.
Any other and Paul?
It seems to me that what this puts into place is maybe a more robust infrastructure for maintaining it and inspecting it, and it takes some burden off of the applicants to find volunteers to do all that work. So, I think I would agree that it's a good move on the part of the city, and I think it makes the pump track more durable in the long run, potentially.
Devin, my apologies interrupting. You were halfway
No, I
through.
think it was important. Thank you,
Yeah.
Brian.
So
we
moving
handled
on,
it
you've talked
nicely.
about two of the projects. Your feelings on the other three?
I think we're unique as a community to have so much open space. I liked Wayne's article in the paper. He certainly needs to be recognized for doing that. And this is, I loved the discussion between Sarah and Lori Sanders about Mineral Hills. So I'm not finding much I'm not in favor of at this point, Brian. I'm definitely, I like the idea of the recreation sports boards, the um, scoreboards. What am I missing?
Pioneer Valley Habitat.
Uh, Come back to me on that after I hear some other opinions.
Thank you, Devin. Chris Hellman.
I have no substantive concerns with any of the proposals. I am full speed ahead on Crafts Avenue and Habitat. Um, my I was also impressed by the outpouring of public support for the pump track. Um, that's the only one about which I have any, and they're not concerns about the project. But given, particularly, thank you for your clarifying comment about the residual money that we have. That the 250 is going to be for historic, and if there's a second round this year. My only concern has to do with timing and financing of that project, whether it has to happen now and if we do decide to do it now, whether or not it's something we're going to bond. So that's where I'm going to focus my attention. But with regard to the rest of the programs, unless I hear concerns raised by any of my other colleagues, I'm willing to support all of them, and I strongly support the two housing projects.
Thank you, Chris. Martha.
Thanks, Brian. I'm in agreement with what I've heard so far. Um, I would say that at the very top of my list would be the South Mineral Hills project and also the Crafts Avenue project. The Crafts Avenue project was reviewed by the Historical Commission when it was in its design phases, and it was really well received by the commissioners. So I just wanted to put that in there. I think it's not only providing such an important service to the community, but it's also a pretty beautiful building, and it's going to really improve, I think, the streetscape of the city, which is a bonus. I visited the South Mineral Hills a couple of times and hiked through, and I just think it's a very, very important piece of land in a really strategic location. And I love that someone from East Hampton wrote in a support letter on it. I thought that was pretty great. The West Hampton Cottage, I think everything that Habitat has done in the past has been fantastic, and I'm sure this will be equally so. I noticed there were two outstanding foundation awards pending. that actually make up about a third of the budget for this project. And I wondered if there was any update on where those might be at this point. Sarah, I don't know if you know that or not. And if those didn't come through, if it would be, it would jeopardize it. But otherwise, I support it.
Megan is here. At least I'm seeing her name here. Megan are you listening in? Is there any update on that?
I am here, and I was trying to open my budget summary because as I heard you with this question, the timing of some of those, the Beverage Foundation, we had requested 30,000, and they have awarded us 20,000, so that's promising. The Federal Home Loan Bank of Boston, we expect to hear back in December. We did frame the first wall of the house yesterday. So it is going forward. And I hope that we can get both of those funding sources to move forward, but we're going to have to fundraise as we build if it doesn't.
Okay, so you're not concerned about it hampering the success of the project if you're not completely successful with those.
Yeah, I guess it hampers our future projects more than this one. And so what would happen if we don't get these restricted funds from the foundations or from CPA is we would have to use unrestricted dollars we've fundraised already, and that would make those dollars not available for the working capital and for the next project.
Okay, thank you.
I think it was Emily Dickinson who said hope is a thing with feathers. We could reframe that. Hope is a habitat wall that's gone up without all funding coming through. So,
It's not
all
lost
right,
on me that she put the wall in the background.
Yeah.
a single wall, right? Martha, keep on going. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, sure. So quickly, the scoreboards I think are fantastic. My only thought was, first thought was, do these need to happen right away? But I realized that the Ellerbrook Foundation is basically buying the boards. So if we don't fund it and say we wait until the spring, then they're going to be probably without them all summer, and that kind of blows a whole year. So I would support that. The pump track, I have to admit, I had a lot of mixed feelings about this. Not the public support. I thought the support was fantastic. It feels like a pretty broad slice of the community that's in favor of this. I love its connections to the bike path, the opportunity for more people spending time outdoors and not on social media, and possibly economic development boost for the city. So that was all great. My concerns were, and I think most of them have been addressed, was about the organization of the funding. It just seemed to me that a nonprofit, it's a big grant of money, and just managing that is, it's a heavy lift. It can be a heavy lift. There was also a question I had about some of the funds that look like they've already been expended for this project, and we can't award money for things that have already been paid for. So that would be something we would need to look at when we do the budget calculations on it. And then, it seemed to me there were a lot of questions hanging about the actual design, and once the design is finalized, what the actual construction budget is going to be. But now that the rec department is taking this over, I feel pretty confident that that will get ironed out by people who know what they're doing. So I would support a further discussion about it.
Great. Thank you, Martha. Paul?
Okay. I am favorably inclined towards all of them. Regarding the 72 acres, I've long battled for the set aside of the Mineral Hills. I live on Turkey Hill Road and had a neighborhood association that helped make that happen. So this 72 acres, if you read Laurie Sanders' description of how varied a habitat it is, and what a vital wildlife corridor it maintains, I just think it's a fabulous thing for us to do, and it brings us closer to the 30% of space in the city to put into conservation restriction. Secondly, on the scoreboards, I think it's a great idea. I think it's going to be a big draw, especially for maybe regional athletic events. And I think it's always helpful to parents and kids to know what the score is and not feel like they're out of it. It actually increases participation and enthusiasm. 27 Crafts Avenue is, I think, ingenious. And in talking with Alexis at CDC at Prospect Place, I was just blown away by the thoughtfulness and the foresight of CDC. And in our last meeting, we heard how well prepared this project is. And it's close to getting started, I believe, once the funding falls into place. So I support that. The pump track, I didn't even know what a pump track was before it came up. And I'm a big fan of them now. I've seen them in Asheville, North Carolina, and wondered what they were. And I think this is really appealing to a broader spectrum of kids who need to be outdoors and athletic, especially neurodivergent kids. But anyone who can get on a bike and get on the bike paths from the surrounding communities, it's a great opportunity for them. And I do like the idea of Parks and Recreation really having its aegis over this project. And then in terms of West Hampton habitat, Pioneer Valley habitat, I'm always in on habitat. And I feel like, they don't produce a lot of units, but they do get a wonderful community involvement, and it makes for secure housing for a family. So yeah, I would support that as well.
Thank you, Paul. Julia?
Well, yeah, score is 5-0, right? As we go to the scoreboard. We've got 5 really good projects, and it's hard to not be excited about any of them. Really, I did the same thing, Martha. I went out to Mineral Hills, wandered around, got kind of happy about that area. It's great to see another CDC project coming. It's the kind of project that we support. We support Habitat over and over again because they also do quality work.
Yes.
And as I said, keeping score is important. I hear all the hesitation about the pump track, but this would be a really big community building, community project. We've done those before at these kinds of high costs. We just did one that we opened this summer, the pickleball courts came in around the same amount. The one thing I'll remind you is that when we did the pickleball courts, and I have the same issue with the budget, Martha, I actually tried to tease out what was past money spent and past money received from that total, because although we got on our sheet a project total of $720,000, some of that is money already spent. So for us, that's not project total. Project total is looking forward. And so we are being asked for a very large percentage of the forward movement of what's going to happen on pump track. And when that did happen on the pickleball courts, we said, yeah, we'll fund, but we will also have the private citizens who, the same way with the pump track, came here and talked to us about the build, do some fundraising on their own. And that was successful. The community came together. So I think that might be something that we can talk about when we get to the conversation about pump track, in addition, Chris, to bonding. So 5-0.
Thank you, Julia. Chris Tate?
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, Julia, I think you spoke to my concerns about the pump track perfectly. I always like to see, maybe not a majority of the funding coming from CPC, but I like all of these projects. I really hadn't heard of a pump track before the presentation, and and I'm very excited about it now. So I think it's a great project, but I would like to see a greater percentage coming from outside of our committee. All the other projects I think are great. I always support the housing projects and the Mineral Hills acquisition. That's That's certainly a keystone in that landmass. So that's great. Scoreboard's great. So 5 worthy projects, and I'm sure we're going to talk about bonding the pump track. So yeah, I like them all.
Thanks, Chris. Jeff?
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, I don't know what we're up to, 6 or 7 to nothing on sound off, but I support all 5. I think they're all solid, they're all worthy, especially the housing ones. I was disappointed I couldn't make the Prospect Street um, dedication, but I had contract bargaining, and they always seem to do these ceremonies, and I can't get there. But anyway, I think they're all very solid, and I think the only question would be how are we going to fund it, whether we actually bond or not. I'm actually kind of leaning toward these are also good. We might want to save bonding for something down the road. I know in the past, this committee has reserved money for the next round. And if we were to fund everything outright, we would have the 251K for historic, and that would basically be it unless we bonded something. I'm almost open to doing that. Instead of, we don't really know what the next round may bring us. But I think that's basically where I'm at. These are all solid projects. And if we have to put a condition in the pump track that the money we might allocate, however we do it, goes directly to the pump track and doesn't get used for another parks and recreation project, I'm open to doing that too. Because this committee in recent sessions has dealt with the perception that the city, instead of funding some projects directly, is trying to have the CPC fund part of the project, and I don't want to go there. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. Lemmy?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. I mean, mostly like everything seems great. I mean, I think it's fair to say like most, if not all things in my, I'm like learning some things as I've been on the committee a little bit. And most, if not all things that come through here are like worthy to some degree. And how do we manage that? And I guess with the pump track in particular, it's like raising a lot of questions for me around, you know, like for example, like, oh, we'll ask the DCC about how unhoused folks would feel, and like the DCC has not established accountability structures to unhoused folks at all. And then like I feel similar about Parks and Rec is like the money going into the city really doesn't feel like we really have any say over it anymore, even if with these partnerships. I feel like the partnerships, from my understanding, really depend on like staying in the good graces with like the administration. And if you're out of the good graces, then what happens? And I don't say all this to like be inflammatory or anything. I'm just like really grappling with these projects and the different class backgrounds of people who will be using these projects. And with the pump track, I guess what I'm saying is I would be in support of the pump track. I would actually like really advocate to maybe like not fund it in full, because $7,000 with of donations when there's like 700 members, that's like not mathing to me, of the people who are talking about traveling all over and doing all these cool things to go to these pump tracks. Like to me, the class background of this membership seems fairly like on the higher end. So then how do we make, and I feel this way about the pickleball courts, too, like a little bit. Like I love that we funded it. I was so excited. And then, I drive from Springfield every day where I work, and like I see that there's like a pickleball court place in the Holyoke Mall now. And like think about the people in Holyoke, and I don't know if there might be a pickleball court in Holyoke, but it's like now they're paying to go play pickleball every day. And like what does that mean, right? And so I don't think it's like any in particular thing. I just think about, we talk theoretically about how to make people who have more money pay their fair share, and how do we do that in a committee like this? And with 700 members, I just think I would like to challenge them, not like in a bad way, but just like what is an amount of money, if they have 700 members, $140 per member would make $100,000, right? Like that's a big chunk. And um yeah, I guess it's just like there's a lot of people in Northampton who like things like pickleball, biking, softball. I love softball. And it's free for us to access. And then how do we like, if we're building infrastructure for these things to be accessible, which I totally support, if people who want these things make more money, how can they really like show their stake, not just by putting lots of time into something which they have more of because of class privilege, but really like what are we putting of our own selves into stuff, and I know that's like a really theoretical question, but I think that's all to say I support all the projects, and I think I would just like to really challenge the Northampton Bike Club, which seems to have a massive, huge support to like really dig a little deeper and put forward like their own money as well. And I'm an organizer, like I get that that's hard and like the logistics of that feels scary, but I am often raising money for, I mean, actually I don't do a lot of mutual aid, but I know organizations who are doing mutual aid, and we're like constantly digging in our pockets to like figure out how to fund stuff as members of organizations. And I would like to see more of that with this project, with such a massive, awesome, cool organization that seems like it has great leadership. So I think that's kind of my stance, is like I'd even go as far to say you guys need to raise $100,000. You have 700 people. I really hope that works out. And like I don't know if it can be bonded or whatever. I know it can actually, but it's like bonding something out when like the membership of the people who have it have the wealth to then fund it gives me complicated feelings. So I don't know exactly where that puts us, and I don't think it means any, it could mean nothing for this particular vote, but it's just stuff that's been like brewing for me for a while around different projects having different class benefits, and like for like the affordable housing projects, all the power dynamics that go to accessing that versus like walking into a pickleball court, and just like grappling with it. So I think one question I just would like to have is really challenging applicants to think about class privilege in their pool of people that are working on it. And, is just like whatever they paid in taxes, really just like to give back to them. Like, is that a fair kind of way to think about it? But I really love all the projects. I love this committee so much. I love like, of course, I want to fund everything all the time. And I just think this community has a lot of wealth that is going untapped. And yeah, I don't know what to do with that in this particular vote.
Thank you, Lemmy. I'm glad you bring up the issue of class privilege. That's really important for us to consider when we're looking at these projects. I'll speak as the last person. Certainly all in on the on the Mineral Hills Conservation Area, all in on Crafts Ave. The Valley CDC can do little wrong, in my opinion, as can Habitat for Humanity. The more we can be funding affordable housing, the better. Again, one of the things that stuck with me at the Prospect Place dedication was 4,400 applicants for 60 units. That's, where are we in a country where it's come to that? The baseball scoreboard, yeah, folks need to know what inning it is and who's ahead and who's behind. It's a little unclear how $25,000 when the scoreboards have been bought for us. Where's that 25,000 going to dig a trench and run electric line? I don't quite get that, but Julius, like that's what it is. So I'm everything is more expensive than we ever think it is. The one that I've really wrestled with is the pump track, and not because I'm opposed to it at all. And I was very impressed with it. I think 23 folks who spoke in favor at the meeting 2 weeks ago. I was really reassured with the conversation I had with Anne Marie and this morning and with Sarah, sort of changing over, because I was, no offense, John, but was really anxious about a nonprofit taking over the reins of procurement and all the things that go into that. So that made me feel better. Nonetheless, fully funding 1.6. So I'm really committed to those four. And looking at the pump track, does it need to be done now? If we fully funded everything at 1.66 million, that would leave us with less than 300,000. 250,000 of that goes to historic preservation. So any other project we're not going to be able to fund. I think folks know that the King Street affordable housing project, Valley CDC is looking at that as, multiple units that's coming down the pike. There will, if Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, be an ask to us about that project. What if they come in the spring? One thing that we've learned, or I think at least I've learned, is that this early seed money that we've provided for affordable housing has a huge impact in the ability to leverage state money. And it's $20 million project, 30 million. King Street, I think, is going to be more than that. I mean, it's a huge project. And what if they come to us? And what if they want 600,000 or 800,000? We can't bond for that. If we don't have that available, are we going to lose out when that's the time to do it? So that really concerns me. I would not, and so then that leaves us with bonding. I'm concerned about the fact that we bonded more projects in the last 2 years than we have since all the other years I've been on this committee. I think we have the tennis and basketball courts, the Leeds Elementary, the Ryan Road Elementary. We did not bond the pickleball, right? That we paid in full. So I guess it's those three projects. And it really makes me anxious to be bonding another $633,000 project. Or if we go with Lemmy, a $533,000 project. That's still a lot of money that we're bonding. And that really makes me anxious. I'm wondering, with the way that it's now in the hands of Parks and Rec, whether we can partially fund to a very small amount, $100,000, to get through all of the sort of stages before going out to bid. It would just put the project back. Bicycle folks wouldn't like that. It would set it back for a little bit, but at least it would free us up with enough money to hopefully handle something that came our way in the spring. So those are my thoughts. But moving along, what I would suggest is that we have four. I'm sorry, Martha.
Brian, I just want to follow up on that thought. Is this the appropriate time to do that or not?
Sure.
Should we wait
Yeah.
to what you were just going to say about the four that looks like we want to move forward and then discuss the pump track? Well, anyway, I'll just say it. I've been thinking along your lines. From my experience as a design professional, there's so much work that has to get done upfront on these projects. There's conceptual design, but there's also site investigation, there's permitting, there's all of the engineering that has to get done, all the approvals, and then all the construction documents. And at that point, up until then, you really don't know what the cost of construction is going to be. And so, we're looking at some numbers here that could go way, way up. They could come down. We don't really know. And so I would just, put this thought out there that funding sort of the upfront costs on this, I think would make sense to get it off the ground as soon as the money's available in the spring, and then go through that process. And then by, the fall, I would imagine they would have a really good idea of how much this is going to cost. And then we would have more real numbers to work with. That's what I would recommend. And that might allay some of your fears about putting all our money towards this project that I think there's still a lot of unknowns on in terms of numbers.
Thank you, Martha. So I'm going to suggest we deal with the four that we seem to be in unanimity. Is that a word? About. In the past, and Paul, I know you're new to this process. We take things, we put them in the shopping cart. We make motions. We say, yeah, we're gonna we're in favor of putting this project into the shopping cart as is, but we can take it out of the shopping cart at checkout. So it's sort of a preliminary vote. And I would like to suggest that we move forward on making motions to put into the shopping cart the four of those projects. And then if we have unanimity about that, then move on to the pump track and try to figure out where to go with that. Does that make sense to folks? Yeah, okay. I'm seeing thumbs up. So I think we should go probably one by one. Does someone want to? Let's begin with the Valley CDC Crafts Ave. Again, this is not a final vote. This is a motion to put into the shopping cart at a certain amount what that project is. Can someone make a motion for the Crafts Ave project?
Move to fully fund.
Okay, Chris, is there a second? Julia with a second. Any discussion about putting the Crafts Ave project into the shopping cart at $600,000? Further discussion on that? Sarah, do we need a formal vote if we're in a shopping cart?
Yeah, and so if you have a motion in a second, you do have to
Got it. Okay.
finish up
Can you
the,
take us through a roll call?
Absolutely. It's roll call on the shopping cart for Crafts Avenue. Jeff?
Yes.
Lemmy?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Chris Tate?
Yes.
Martha?
Yes.
Paul?
That's a yes from Paul, I think.
Devin?
Yes.
Chris Hellman?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, unanimous. Thank you. Second up, let's look at Mineral Hills acquisition. Is there a motion to that effect? And again, congratulations on the state grant coming in, Sarah.
Devin makes the motion.
Oh, okay.
I'll
And I'll
second
second.
it.
I think Martha made the motion for fully funding. Was that right?
Yes, and I'll
I
second
think
it.
Devin did, and I seconded it.
And okay, Paul, yes. Discussion, Lemmy.
I was just wondering, and forgive my like silliness, but can open space be bonded or no?
It could be. Yeah, that
Okay.
would be a
So
possibility.
by saying yes to this, we're saying yes, and it could be bonded.
It
Okay.
could be. Yeah.
Thank you for reminding us of that, Lemmy. I'd forgotten about the open space. Okay, so Paul made the motion. Martha seconded it. Is there any other discussion other than what Lemmy brought up about the potential to bond the open space acquisition?
I'm being lazy and not looking it up, but I keep hearing congratulations about the grant that came in. Does that reduce this by any amount of money, or is that counted in this amount of money?
So I was optimistic when I put together the financial report and listed the CPA request as the local match for the land grant, so that it doesn't change.
Okay,
it's not
great.
the full amount that would have been necessary. So it's
Okay.
320,300 as a CPA request.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Lemmy?
Yeah. Sorry, a lot of stuff's coming up last minute. Is there like a value of this land that is going to increase the city's assets? And if so, like, what is the discussion of Northampton investing some money into it, like the city itself rather than the grant?
If for the acquisition itself, or
Yeah, like presumably if we acquire it, like the city now has a new asset, or is it like, do you know what I mean? Like, does it increase the city's assets to acquire open space?
that's a complicated question, I guess. So from the Conservation Commission's perspective, it's additional property to manage. That's that's done through a variety of ways with staff time through someone in the Office of Planning and Sustainability, and ongoing maintenance costs that are hopefully borne by the conservation fund that Brian was referencing earlier in Wayne's op-ed piece.
It's also land that'll never be taxed, right? So we're not going to make any money on this land. So
Correct.
we're
Yeah.
losing money.
Yeah, I mean, it's enrolled in Chapter 61 now, so the tax revenue is really minimal. If it were converted to another use, then that tax revenue would go up. But it would also be lost as an open space resource forever.
And also, if it were developed instead of put into conservation restriction, it would increase the amount of fire and police and DPW maintenance, snow plowing, et cetera. So there would be some infrastructure costs associated with it if it's not put aside.
And more broadly, when the city does acquire open space, there's a careful consideration of whether any portions of that would be appropriate for a limited development project. Typically, we try to do that with affordable housing, although that doesn't make sense for every project. A recent one was the Pine Grove Golf Course, for example. That one, 4 lots were carved off for building prior to the city's acquisition, to allow the golf course owner to get the amount that he was looking for the purchase and still allow the city to protect the most environmentally sensitive portions of that.
Thanks. I had to brush up on open space. Clearly, I need to know more about it. Thank you.
Any other discussion about the Mineral Hills acquisition? Okay, so there's been a motion to fully fund at $320,300 in Mineral Hills South acquisition. Sarah, can you take us through a roll call?
Sure. Jeff?
Yes.
Lemmy?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Chris Tate?
Yes.
Martha?
Was that a yes, Martha?
Okay. Yes. Paul?
Yes.
Devin?
Yes.
Chris Hellman?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes. Okay, unanimous. Moving on to the baseball scoreboard by Parks and Rec. Is there a motion for that project?
Move to fully fund.
Okay, thank you, Julia. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jeff. Any further discussion on the 25,000 for the baseball scoreboard? Seeing as there is none, Sarah?
Right. Jeff?
Yes.
Lemmy?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Chris Tate?
Yes.
Martha?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Devin?
Yes.
Chris Hellman?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes. So unanimous. Fourth project is the 75,000 for the Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity project on West Hampton Road. Is there a motion for that?
So moved, fully fund.
Thank you, Jeff. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Martha. Discussion? If there is no discussion, Sarah?
Right. Roll call for Habitat for Humanity. Jeff?
Yes.
Lemmy?
Yes.
Julia?
Is that not working? Yes.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Chris Tate?
Yes.
Martha?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Devin?
Yes.
Chris Hellman?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes. Okay, so thus far we have in the shopping cart 4 projects: Mineral Hills acquisition for $320,300, baseball scoreboard for $25,000, Crafts Ave with CDC for $600,000, the West Hampton Road Pioneer Valley Habitat project for $75,000. All of those are in the shopping cart. They can be removed. Only one could be bonded if we see so fit to do that, and that would be the open space acquisition project. And now it's time to look at the pump track. The proposal is coming in at $633,000. Again, Sarah has down the Northampton Cycling Club, and we need to sort of change that to the Northampton Parks and Recreation Department along and assisted ably by the Northampton Cycling Club. We have John Brody with us. John, usually we confine discussion to the committee, but we'll let you go this time to keep your comments short if you can, please. John?
Yes, I'll work to do that. I just thought it would be really important to speak to some of the comments and questions that folks so importantly raised. Maybe first with Lemmy's comment. Just Lemmy, I just wanted you to know, really hear you. Lemmy and I are both social workers. These are shared values of mine to support as many people as possible. And in some ways, I think, the presentations from the people who spoke are the people that have the privilege to do that. But in a lot of ways, the pump track audience is not what many would consider kind of a wealthy cyclist. Pump tracks often attract, people from a wide range of socioeconomic backgrounds. And again, our goal is to have it at Vets Field, which has it in greatest proximity to affordable housing, including the affordable housing you all just, put in the shopping cart to build. And I think for us, our goal of the NCC has always been to broaden access. We've done that by running our programs through Parks and Rec, through free events. We've developed a community support fund, which is a scholarship fund that we give out to folks, and our, annual support of All Out Adventures. And so, in some ways, we see ourselves as using the privilege that we do have in order to make the sport of cycling accessible to the most amount of people. And related to that, Sarah reached out. We've been working really hard with Anne Marie. I don't need to repeat. It was a great collaborative discussion with Anne Marie today. We Brian, you said something to the effect of like, there's relief in the idea that it's out of a nonprofit's hands and in with Parks and Rec, and we couldn't agree more. That was a big burden, off of our shoulders, that we were glad to have. And with that, so to Lemmy's point, we are willing to keep stepping up. And so we looked at the budget, and Martha, I know you had some kind of questions about the organization of the budget. And so kind of very briefly, it's the full cost was about 720,000, and we had kind of 48,000 kind of going in, which left us having to raise another 38 and you all with 633 to fund. And again, to Lemmy's point, we are willing. There was a $72,000 kind of overage amount that was allotted. There's like $15,000 for turf, and we are willing to take that on. So to Lemmy's point, to the tune of about $100,000. And I say it and I'm like, oh, what am I saying? Because we are all volunteer. It's been dozens, if not hundreds of hours so far. Like tonight, I'm taking time away from my family after seeing my full client list today as my job as a social worker. And so the point is that punting this another year or so will require a lot more work and a lot more time. And the project is shovel ready. And American Ram Company, who's got who would do the bulk of the, management and building, has said they are ready to do it. They can do it for that number, and they can get it done kind of ASAP. And you can't half build a pump track. There like isn't another phase. They wouldn't even, right? If you look at the outline that we gave you, the next steps are some construction documents and stuff like that. They fall at about like $50,000 or something like that. They kind of have that stuff at the ready. So that stuff would just kind of sit there. It would just get kind of punted down the road. We'd kind of lose some, I think we'd lose some momentum. We'd have to spend a lot more time and energy towards this again, and it would be really hard. So our recommitment, and I know there's some of my partners that will be like, "What are you doing, Jonathan?" But I really do, We can cover that 100 grand that Lemmy suggests, but we would need the rest of the money to kind of make this thing happen. And to Martha, just one last piece, and I'll stop talking. Your point about construction costs, they're only going to go up. If we wait another year, we don't know where we'll fall in the queue of American Ram Company, right? These are becoming right? This is one of the biggest kind of growing sports is alternative recreation and cycling. So if they get a big queue and we get pushed down and it becomes a year or 2 years, this project's costs are going to balloon even more. I don't think we're going to get hit by any major surprises, but if we do, and you all are only in for 533, we're in for 100. We would have to cover the rest. If it comes to that, but we're pretty confident it's not going to come to that. So I hope that answers your kind of questions and concerns. And I only wanted to say it because I think it might help kind of inform your decision making. Sorry, and one last thing, which is all of these are really worthy projects. And, I think, you know, in some ways, like alternative sports and um, kind of the accessories to the affordable housing in the community is really important for Northampton. It's one thing to kind of Northampton over the past 30 years has invested a lot in standard, mainstream sports, and since the skate park, maybe not as much. And so I think this is a really key opportunity to fund alternative sports that a lot of kids, particularly kids of need and kids at risk, really need and utilize, especially now. And lastly, it's one thing to build affordable housing, but another thing to not have the accessory community supports for them. When I think about, I live right around the corner from the lumber yard. I live in this area, this neighborhood where the affordable housing is being built. And it's no offense, I love the lumber yard, but the playground they built for the kids and the outdoor space is paltry. When they built it, I was like, is this it? This is it? And so their kids, sometimes come into our neighborhood, because it's all our neighborhood, come into my yard, use my trampoline, go into the, area field, because we have to kind of make space, because a lot of times the affordable housing doesn't have that extra recreational space for them. And I think, the pump track definitely kind of adds to that city infrastructure as well. That's all I'd like to say.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
And Anne Marie, are you listening in on this? Anne Marie from Rec Department? I see your name down. I'm wondering if I guess not. Okay. All right.
No,
So
I am. I'm here. I couldn't unmute
oh,
myself.
okay. Anne Marie, do you want to add any additional comments to this conversation?
I think that John, for sure, emphasized that we had great discussions recently. And it would be a great addition down to that area of the city and that park. And they have been a solid group to be working with. They have, they've been in existence for a long time, and I think that it would be something that we would really benefit from partnering with them. And I think he hit all the points that I don't know, unless anyone has specific questions.
Can you speak to Martha's question, Anne Marie, about would partial funding to sort of cover the cost of further plans and getting things to go out, out to bid documents, would that be helpful at all?
There we go. Okay. Well, it's from how the project would work, because they already have the design pretty much done. And the next phase, it doesn't sound to me or look to me, with the way the project has already been, so much has already been done, that really could be phased at this point. Because the phasing usually is like, oh, the design comes first, and maybe some of the permitting, and some of that. This feels more like it's a whole project that gets done at once, with a company that is that can do it all. They have their own engineers, they have their own planners that they work with, and then it all is done as an entire unit. It didn't feel to me like there was a way to phase it, unless, from looking at that budget, unless you guys think that there's something that could be culled out, but it didn't feel like it to me with my
It,
discussions with
it
them.
seems like there's still Conservation Commission permitting that has to happen, though. They
Yeah,
list an RDA or NOI, so
yeah, which isn't a huge. I mean,
sometimes.
I don't feel like that's a huge part of it. Um, I know Berkshire Design has been involved in it with a lot of work already, and they're the ones who actually they've done projects at Vets Fields already. They're the ones who built this, helped us with the skate park and all the improvements that have been in that park for the past 25 to 30 years. And they've been helping them with some of this back end work already. So they've kind of already looked at they haven't, like you said, they haven't gone for the permits yet, but they know what's there. They know where the lines are for the possible wetlands and all that kind of stuff. So they've sort of looked at all that stuff, and they're ready to kind of jump to the next of actually going for the permits, which are part of the whole design of the whole infrastructure.
Martha?
So Anne Marie, so this is a publicly funded project. It would be
Hmm.
on public land. Does this not have to go out for competitive bid?
Oh no, it all so it's yes, it all does because it's public land, public project. So there are some bid processes that we actually were trying to talk through today. And that's how this all kind of came to fruition of how it would, okay, let's try to, if there's funding, go to Park and Rec. And we would definitely be working with our procurement officer in the city, to the chief procurement officer and other officials in the city to be sure that all the procurement rules were absolutely followed. So yeah, it does. It has to. There are different ways and different processes to do that, and that's what we still need to sort of whittle down and confirm. But yeah, it
So
does have to.
okay, thank you. So what I heard you say though is that there's one vendor for this. Essentially, it's a soup to nuts company that does it
Hmm.
all.
Yep.
So is the intention to actually really get competitive bids on this, or are you just gonna sole source this? It's a lot of money, is all I'm saying. And
Right.
it would. I think Devin brought this up around the playgrounds when we had our last conversation about the playgrounds and how, if you have one vendor, you're going to pay whatever they ask you because you only have one vendor. And
Hmm.
I'm just questioning whether
Yeah.
this, can be done. Is there more than one where this could be done so that you're getting some competition in here and that
Mhm.
the city's not being asked to pay what is just being charged?
Yep. Absolutely. And you're right. We actually, the discussions I had with Sarah today, with the procurement officer, and we didn't get to really whittle it down. There are only um, certain companies that build these pump tracks, and this so it's not like there is a whole bunch of choices out there. There's specialty companies that do this. And how it would end up being is figuring out if there is a cooperative bidding process. There's like sole source. It's not really sole source. It's a cooperative bidding process that can possibly be used. But I'm not. We really didn't finalize. Sarah can attest or add to that if she wants from our meetings today or our discussions. We didn't really come to a conclusion of how that would work. Because we need to have some more internal discussions on it. So, we wouldn't want to, like to your point, just pay the highest price because it's the easiest way to go. We'd want it to be the best product possible, um, you know, with the design that the city desires and that the people desire that have put all their time into designing it and coming up with what it should look like. Does that make sense?
Chris Tague.
This does seem identical to the playground projects where there's a vendor who
Hmm.
designs the playground for you, and then procure the equipment from that vendor. We've done two of those projects in the last year, so I don't see how this project is any different than those playground projects. And your
It,
procurement officer must have dealt with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're right.
Yeah.
That's how we've done playgrounds in the past because when you pick a certain or you want a certain product, there are only one or, there's only a certain company that can provide that. And then that's sort of where you work through with procurement was how would that work? And sometimes it has to be or something similar. And then companies who think they can do a similar job can bid on it. But again, that is all through and worked on with our city's procurement officer, who is working with the state and everything, for sure.
John, I'm going to put you on hold for a moment. Other committee members, questions for Anne Marie or comments to make?
Brian, Devin here. In doing my research for the maintenance station, I went around town and talked to Northampton Bike, and I realized they've got a brochure on the pump track. I talked to George Cohout on FNT and whether they would be involved. Everyone I've talked to has been uh, really excited about something new and sort of catching this wave at the right time. So I just want to express the enthusiasm I ran into in going all around town one day and talking about pump tracks because I'm like most of you, I didn't have any idea what it was 2 months ago.
Other questions for Anne Marie the committee members have, or comments that committee members want to make? Julia, as our rec department person, is there further words of wit and wisdom that you have for us?
We've been hearing about the pump track and rec department over many, many years, actually. We've heard about many possible sites for it. And I just want to add to your thinking the idea that we're going to revitalize a park that is looking a little bit. I encourage people on this committee to go out and look at the park. And if you went and looked at the park, what you saw was a park that's nice enough and a park that could really be attractive and be attractive to the whole city. And that's in an area of the city that doesn't have a lot of recreational opportunities. So we would love to see that park become a heavy use park again. Love to see the bike path be a part of it. And yeah, that's actually a park that's accessible from Lumberyard and from the new affordable building that we're gonna fund on Crafts Avenue. So, it fills in for many, many people.
Other comments from committee members? Okay. Is there a motion someone would like to make?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna drop in. Brian, I didn't mean to get in at the last minute, but I'm still struggling with the how we as a committee are going to handle the financing component of it. And one of the things that you raised when you were sharing your opening comments on the go around was another upcoming housing project and where that would leave us. And I haven't heard anything about the King Street project. So what I would like to ask Sarah, and sorry to put you on the spot, Sarah. Do we know anything about what the spring's going to look like?
I do not. I haven't heard, except for a few initial inquiries for projects that were great ones, but were in no way eligible for CPA funds. I don't have any firm commitments about what might be coming in the spring round. And not to put Bill on the spot either. And he may not know at this point, but he may be able to speak to where in the planning and development process Valley CDC is at the 33 King Street project.
Bill, were you still with us?
Yeah, and thanks, Sarah. I'm happy to chime in briefly on it. I'm not the project manager for that one. That's Jess Allen, but I am familiar with it. It is a partnership with the community builders. It'll build 90 apartments at the former Hall of Records building on King Street in two buildings rather. It'll likely be kind of like Prospect Place, where it's going to be generally family housing at a kind of a variety of affordabilities and income. It is in the what I would call the schematic design phase, and I don't know exactly when the timing of the CPA request would be offhand, but I believe it is the next project in queue after Crafts Ave.
Do you think, Bill, there's any likelihood of it ending up in our lap at some amount of money in January of this next year?
No. If anything, I would say it'd be a fall request. I don't want to say later just because I don't want to get myself in trouble if that's not the case, but I don't see any scenario that it's a winter or spring request to the CPA.
Thank you. That's helpful.
And before I yield the microphone, Brian, I just wanted to say that I appreciate Lemmy's thoughts on this, and I think that I don't know that this is the venue for that conversation because I think the idea of an applicant's ability to pay is a broader issue that we would want to speak to as a committee in defining what our role is in determining how we're going to fund proposals. I have personally used an organization's assets in the back of my mind as a criteria for my decision making, but we have never formalized it in such a way where we have gone out and that I can remember gone out and said, "We'll do this, but you need to do X, Y, and Z." And I think I think that's an important discussion to have.
Let me.
Chris, if you're going to elaborate on it, I can let you go first, and then I can go.
Chris, you're muted.
I just want to say that I felt with the pickleball project we did in some ways because we said, well, we'll fund kind of the bare minimum, and then you can fundraise, that'll maybe give you the platform to fundraise for the extras that you want and are going to build. So I feel like we've thought about it in the
Yeah, and
past.
I actually was thinking of that example as I was formulating my thoughts, but and I'm not sure I can articulate how I see that differently in my mind, but I did, because because what we basically was said was we're gonna buy you a Chevy, but we're not gonna buy you a Maserati. If you want a Maserati, you got to go out and do that. I don't see that this project necessarily breaks down along those lines.
Yeah.
But again, if we're gonna, I think that if we're gonna start thinking about this as something we're gonna regularly visit as a committee, we want to have a broader discussion about it.
Lemmy?
Yeah, I think to me it's like just along I feel like I was saying something along the lines of like people talking about like having a diverse set of funding. Like this seems like along the lines of like, it's like 80% of the funding that they were asking for. So I think it was like a particular angle to that conversation. And it's like to me, I'm curious about the difference between like all the efforts of CDC or Habitat that they do to fundraise and, get their portion funded versus, like I feel like Habitat and CDC like take it upon themselves to tap the wealth of this community to like fund the things. And I think the problem that I see, but I also agree with you, Chris, that like I think a larger conversation to be had around sort of public goods and like these things that like, we love talking about like what helps poor people when it like also is helping the rich people who like planned it. But like, that's not necessarily the same thing as like really centering folks, if that makes sense. And I know Valley CDC like and other folks probably wrestle with this all the time, but I just want to appreciate like that difference, I guess, that like just because it benefits like some people, it doesn't mean that it's like necessarily like the stake is not the same, right? Like I feel like just because people who have less money will use it and benefit from it doesn't mean that that like is a top priority for them or like their lives. So I think that's kind of just what I'm sussing out more than like, and it feels like a diversity of funding thing. And I think it just like, between the playgrounds, the pickleball, like I think there's going to be like more and more like goodwill. And I love seeing civic groups grow in this community. But as like a lot of like wealthier people move here, they're going to be like, oh, I want this here, I want that here. And like, I'm a renter. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's just one of those things that like, shaping the landscape of this town is like a really particular thing. And yeah, I just can't help but feel like just being specific is important and the diversity of funding and like, the projects, the playground, this and all this other stuff. I just really want to call on applicants somehow. And I don't know if this is the time to do it. I'd be fine with voting for this full funded. But really call on applicants to really examine the sort of stakes and really engage with that even before submitting an application. But that's also my dream world, so I don't know.
Julia?
Yeah, I appreciate this discussion. I have a lot of different thoughts, and I mean I get it. The sticker shock on our parks and recreation projects is big. I forget what we did for each of the playgrounds, but it's always in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it feels really feels like a lot of money to be spending to get people moving. My professional background, I hear that we have a couple of social workers. My professional background is in public health and physical therapy. And the area that this is why I'm on Parks and Rec. The area that I focus on is physical activity nutrition, food insecurity. We have a really significant problem of physical activity insecurity. And to be physically active in spaces where you don't have to pay money has become more and more difficult. We're a city full of fitness clubs and associations. I love the YMCA. It's a great community-based organization. They're certainly providing services to people who do or don't have sufficient funds to pay. And I hear what you're saying about wealthier people's needs and thinking about the playgrounds that way. I don't think about it that way. I really think about each of our opportunities to build recreational areas as an opportunity to engage people in behavioral change, in behaviors that will help them for a lifetime. I'm working on two big projects in public health right now, and one of them is brain health. And it's kind of shocking what percentage of your risk for the development of Alzheimer's related dementia is reduced by engaging in physical activity. But if the only way you can engage in physical activity is to go to one of our local fitness clubs, probably not going to do it. Pump track, free for all. I get it. It's costly. $633,000 is what we're being asked for. I also think, Chris, that the pickleball court is a perfect example. We didn't fund the entire court. We said no to the amenities. The group that's working on that is still trying to raise that money. We also didn't fund the full court. They had to raise enough money so that the surfaces would be laid down, and they did that. I think that's a fine example. It is expensive to be healthy, but it's worth every cent.
Devin?
I'm not ready to characterize people on bicycles as well-to-do rich people in town. I mean, George Kohout running the FNT Bikes for All program, they have taken broken bikes and fixed them up year after year after year and given them away. And that's the kind of enthusiasm he had for this. So I think when Chris and Lenny are talking about we need to have a larger conversation, I'm not sure it's about one project. I'm sure maybe, we have the CPA rules that guide us, and I'm not ready to make decisions about the organizations that are coming to us. I mean, I want to make decisions about the project itself.
Lemmy?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, like I would never, like I'm not saying that like just because I think that 700 membership, I'm just talking about the people who gave public comment and like class markers they had, plus like 700 people in Northampton average, like, and people who are like said in public comment that they were like recently bought property here, like, so yeah, I guess I'm just like putting it out there that I never made that assumption. I don't want to make that assumption. I'm talking about this community as class privilege, not necessarily just bike riders or just whatever, that there is a lot of class privilege in this community that that I would like to be able to weigh. And it's not about one group of people presuming class privilege of a group of people.
Jeff, you've been quiet. Any comments you want to make?
I'm sorry, Brian. This is like my fourth meeting in a row since 3 o'clock this afternoon. It's just one of those days. But no, I think I'm kind of like along the lines of what Julia just said. And I like the idea of it's free access. And I have been to that park, and I think it would be a a good shot in the arm to bring it back. And this committee has had past discussions on trying to rehabilitate other parks. And I like the centrality of it to the downtown stuff. And somebody mentioned the public housing projects that are going on there. Yeah, the only thing I take exception to, be perfectly honest, is and you probably didn't mean it this way, John, but to me, public housing is the number one thing we have to deal with in Northampton. And I'm a big enthusiast for playgrounds, but public housing is more important. And we're behind the eight ball, and I don't really know how we're ever going to meet the demand that we need to do. But I am still in supporting full funding of this. I'm sorry. I just think some of this is kind of it's a good conversation, but I'm starting to get the impression that we're kind of splitting hairs, and I think we should go ahead and fully fund all 5 of these projects. I'll leave it there.
Great. Thank you, Chad. Paul, you haven't weighed in on this?
I fully support full funding for the pump track. I think that for the children who don't play football, soccer, basketball, lacrosse, it's a huge opportunity for them to get out and get moving. And as a clinical social worker, I know the relationship between physical activity and depression. It's an incredibly important aspect of treatment. And I think that because there are so many bike paths leading from different communities to this central area, it's going to be a magnet. And I like the idea that Jonathan had proposed originally when I heard his presentation, was that there can be a lot of events held there, and it'll become a magnet for all kinds of vital activity. And then you add the 27 Crafts Avenue project, and that's going to inject vitality into the community as well. So it's really kind of synergistic, and I want to just fully support it.
Martha?
This is great. This has been a great conversation. It's been really helpful to hear what everybody said. I just would ask, before we decide to vote, or before we vote, would it be possible, Sarah, for you to put the budget for this up on the screen so it can, I'm just not seeing what the real number that we're voting on is. I don't really quite understand it. Is that too much to ask?
So going back to the fiscal year 26.
Yeah, the budget that's in the proposal.
Yeah.
Because remember in the beginning I mentioned when we were first talking about this that there seems like there are things in here that have already been paid for.
Oh,
and
so you're
wasn't
the actual breakdown of their budget is.
Yes.
Okay, Sarah, you able to quickly access
Can you
that?
find it, Sarah? It's on page 7 of the proposal. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Well, oh, Sarah's got it up. Oh, that was quick. Thank you, Sarah. This is what you were looking for, Martha?
Yeah, so this is what I didn't understand. So there are these items in phase 1. I wasn't sure whether those had been already paid for. And if anything
John
in
gave
phase
the thumbs up on that. So yes.
Those have all been paid for. Okay. And what about phase 2?
Whoop.
Could you go back up a little bit, Sarah? It's a little confusing. This is the total on phase 2. Yeah, the items are here.
John?
I just don't want to speak out of turn. I'm I'm trying to be really thoughtful to. Yeah, so if you look at it, so phase 1 was the feasibility study, the arc design, the civil engineering concept design. The total amount that came to was $40,000. And so we've raised about 48. So we took care of that 40, and in that kind of left 8 left over. But if you can see the next subtotal, phase 1 set below that, the pump track civil engineering permitting, pump track arc permitting, we are only we have only 8,000 towards that 32,000. So, and then related to this, like pump track civil engineering costs below that does not include the construction costs, it leaves us. We were already putting ourselves on the hook for another $38,000, $39,000, which then left the balance of 633 for you all to fund.
Is that helpful, Martha?
Can I just ask John one question? And my
Yeah.
understanding was you said your request was for 633. You have some certainty, though you don't have 100 people sitting behind you agreeing with you, that you could bring forth another 100,000 if we could fund to 533.
Yeah. To be honest, it will be challenging.
Yeah, of course.
It will
Right.
take lots of time and yeah. So
Yep.
we've already committed to the 38,000
Okay.
to $39,000. And if we need to, if you, because actually it just goes to one comment Jeff made. I just want to be really clear. I actually prioritize affordable housing. I would choose affordable housing over parks or playgrounds any day. So just to be clear, all I was saying is by choosing affordable housing first, it's one thing to build affordable housing. It's another thing to build the infrastructure that supports affordable housing in the community, to give places for those residents and their families to recreate, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to be really clear. I
Okay.
100%
Yeah. Good.
support affordable housing. So related to that, because we know you have this limited amount of money and some of it's going to affordable housing, in addition to that 39,000, there was 72,000 of overage.
Mhm.
We are willing to say if that's make or break for you all, and it sounds like for some of you it might be, some of you it's not. Obviously, it's your decision. We will take that other $72,000 on to Lemmy's point for $100,000. And to the point that was made earlier, like some of us are wealthier than others, but not all of us.
Okay. Great.
Great.
Thanks. That's
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the question. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank you,
clear on that.
John.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Martha, are you good with this, looking at this?
Yeah, I guess so. I think it's being explained to me in a way that yeah, I guess I was looking to know what items had already been paid for who really are not in the budget anymore. But I think it's probably ends up being the same. The math is the same in the end, I guess. I'm not sure, but I guess.
Martha, I tried to do the math. It isn't quite the same, but we should have a
Thanks.
conversation about if we're going to fund it, to what degree we're going to fund it, because yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Great. Sarah, can you go back? Thank you. I have a quick question for you, Sarah. If we were to go ahead and fully fund this without bonding, and then for the spring round, all of a sudden another big proposal comes in, can we turn around and say, whoa, wait a minute, we want to bond now? Can we go back on that?
That's an interesting question. I don't believe so. So once the funding is allocated, the funding is allocated. So at the very least, you'd have to go back to city council to reconsider that.
Yes, wouldn't city council have to rescind their order if that
They
was?
would, it would be very messy
Yeah.
at the very least. And may not be possible. The easiest way to address it would be to bond future projects, but not every project is able to be bonded.
And so the same is true with if we were to bond it, and then we couldn't go back in the spring and say, no, we're not bonding, we're paying in full. That would still be just as messy.
Yeah, once the bonding process is initiated, it's
Got it.
the ball is rolling.
Thank you. Chris Tate.
I don't have as many reservations as you, Brian, about bonding this project. So I think that would give us the most flexibility for the next round. Bond it at whatever we choose, whether it's the full 633 or if it's 561, which is the 15% contingency less. Just bond it. It gives us flexibility for next round. And That's kind of where I stand with this.
I thought someone else had their hand up.
Brian, if I could speak to that.
Yes, please.
Um, uh, I'm with you, Chris. I don't have any problem with that. But earlier the question I raised was, where is the committee uh, in regard to our overall capacity to bond as we move forward? Because at 39% of capacity, I think we're fine. At 42%, 43%, we're still probably fine. But at some point, I'm going to get to a moment where I'm not fine, and I just want to keep track of that.
And I went back and looked at some financial reports where I knew we had a lot of bonding, and it seemed the biggest one that I could find was 33%.
And that was the early days of Bean Allard or with
It
Platt?
was.
Okay, so we're beyond that at this point, is what you're telling us.
Yes.
Okay.
Or close to it for the upcoming.
39 is what we have.
We're 39 for this year, 39 for next year, and then it drops. Stuff starts coming off the books, right? And then it drops down again.
Well, except that the lead school is not factored into
Yes, it was.
that
It was
obligation.
just an estimate.
Yeah, it
was
is.
factored in.
Leads is. Thank you, Chris.
It
Yes,
is, yeah.
Okay.
So for fiscal year 28, that percentage of bonding capacity will go down to about 25%. And that if anything, these income projections are low. So in reality, it's probably a percentage or two.
And if we choose to bond this project, it won't go on the books until next fiscal year.
Correct.
Yeah.
Do we have to bond it in full, or can we bond a portion of it? Excuse
You
me.
could do a portion.
Uh-huh. And the other thing to keep in mind as a committee is that we're all mulling this over in part because we don't have a crystal ball about our spring, and we want to put some money aside for the spring. In fact, if this project came to us in the spring all by itself with nothing else, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Well, except that 255,000 is sitting in
Yeah.
the historic reserve.
Yeah, but by the spring, it's a historical project.
That's right. There you go. So creative minds at work.
Yeah.
Okay, other comments? Is there a motion out there?
Well, I'll just jump in and move to bond the pump track at $561,000, which is less the 72,000 contingency.
So not only a reduction, but also a mechanism of funding, which is bonding. Okay, so Chris has made a proposal. Is there a second?
I'll second it for the sake of discussion.
Okay, thank you, Lemmy. So the motion has been made by Chris Tate and seconded by Lemmy to bond the project as, I'm sorry, Chris Tate, what was it, 661? Is that what you said?
$561,000.
561, thank you.
My math is 633 minus 72.
Okay, 561,000. Lemmy seconded. Discussion on this, Lemmy.
I guess I'm curious if there's, and I'm not asking Jonathan directly, I'm wondering if from the committee with your experience of like knowing how these projects work, like that 15% contingency, because I was pretty compelled by what you were saying, Julia, about like this is just like a net good, and that this net good should just like exist in this community. And I feel very like yes. So I guess I'm like, is there any risk of, I don't know, the Northampton Cycling Club having a huge rift and everybody hates each other and there's nobody like funding each other or whatever? I mean, no, that's like, but like if that 15% isn't raised for some reason, will this stop this net good from happening in our community? Is kind of my question to people. And if it is, then I would like be fine with fully bonding it, especially if we're bonding it.
The project sponsors can always come back and ask for more money. So keeping that in mind as something. Other discussion? Paul?
So if this motion is defeated, what's the next step? To vote on the full 633?
If another motion is made, any other motion that would be made would be voted on.
And it would most likely be to fully fund it and be concerned about possible funding in the spring for other projects?
If that was a motion that someone made, yes.
Okay.
So again, motion coming in at 561 to bond. There was a second motion by Chris Tate, second by Lemmy. Further discussion on this? Are we ready to vote? Looks like we are. Yes. Okay. Without any further discussion? Sarah?
Okay, vote on, and this is, just to be clear, is this for the shopping cart or is this for?
Yes, shopping. We're still in the shopping cart.
Shopping cart. All right. Pump track into the shopping cart at $561,000 and recommending following to City Council. Jeff?
Yes.
Lemmy?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Chris Tate?
Yes.
Martha?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Devin?
No.
Chris Hellman?
Yes.
And Brian.
Yes.
All right, that carries 8-1.
Okay, we are fully shopping carted up. Devin, want to give you a quick chance to
To
talk about
explain
your
myself.
dissenting vote, explaining your vote.
I just think if we're going to bond it, we ought to fully fund it, and I think we will be in good shape. I don't think we'll get another big housing project in the spring. It's unusual for us to have two on the docket, and I just think we ought to go ahead and make this happen. That was it. My thinking was if we're going to bond it, fund it, make sure it goes through.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being the lone dissenting voice. That's not always easy to do. Chris Tate.
I just like the reduced amount as a motivator for the club to raise more funds towards this project because I don't like funding projects that are 80% or in that range. I want us to be a seeding source for projects, but not like the sole funding source for projects. And this is only the contingency, which they probably will need because that's how it goes. But with no contingency, we are funding the full project here. So I don't think it's too much of a burden. But I would recommend that they start fundraising for this contingency, at least a partial contingency.
Julia?
So I guess where I'm still a little bit hung up on is the bonding, no bonding. And at 561, I mean, this is the wish we knew what was going on in the spring, because if in fact in the spring we didn't get any large requests and all we got were historic requests, we'd be left with about 358 for the spring. We'd still be left with the bonding capacity if there was something that was bondable. We could certainly consider historic proposals, and we don't think we're going to get a housing proposal. So I am happy to have this in the shopping cart. I'm still on the fence about the bonding.
So Julia, could you restate your concerns in the form of a motion?
No, I can't actually because we passed a motion.
No, but that's just a shopping cart. We can
the shopping cart.
Yeah.
Well, when we check out, we can reconsider, I think. That would
Okay,
be
all right.
that would be the moment. And that's why
Okay.
I just wanted to say that because at some point we're going to come to the checkout, and at the checkout, we'll have an opportunity to say to weigh in again, and maybe with a different motion.
I was just saying weigh in again now, but okay, I'm with you.
Martha?
No, I want to get the voting on the easy four.
Martha?
So here's a question. Do we have to have a spring round? Is that like a part of our ordinance? I mean, because one way we could do this, it's just a thought, another idea, is we could fully fund it or fund it at the amount that Chris is recommending, which I am completely in agreement with. Um, and then just not have a spring round and, you know, just save it all for the fall. I mean, it's 6 months, right? I don't know.
I hear you, Martha, but I'm reluctant to change the rules mid-course on something like that. There may be people out there who haven't approached us who are planning on applying in a spring round, and even if we don't have the money, if it was a bondable one, we would at least want to hear them out. So my instinct is to not go that way, but I hear you.
And I want to jump on that too, because we did have a conversation about that last year about whether we should go to one round instead of two, and we felt very strongly about the two rounds. And we would have beyond the historic, I calculated it's $109,000. That's a whole lot of small projects that could do a whole lot of good in our community. So I want a spring round.
I love how Julie argues for one thing and then immediately argues against herself for something else. Lemmy?
I guess I was wondering if you can like pay off bonding early. Like if we have extra money in the spring, can we put it towards the bond and accelerate at the pace in which the bond is paid off?
Sarah?
I'd have to check with the finance director, but I think there's some complications with
No,
doing
you
that.
put it out in the bond market at that point.
You could check at some point, Sarah, and get back because that's a
Yeah.
good question for us to know. Devin, I think you had your hand up.
I did, but I took it down. I do think I remember, Brian, that we had canceled the second round. I think we've done a single round before at some point.
All right. I don't think so,
No?
Devin. No, I don't think
Okay.
that has happened. Okay, any other discussion about this? We are in the shopping cart with fully funding for the five projects, the fifth project moving from 633,000 down to 561,000 and bonding. Is there any other discussion before we move to checkout? Okay, I think we'll check out rather than the whole shopping cart at once. We'll pull individual items out to do that and try to be as quick as possible here. So the Mineral Hills acquisition, the proposal was to fully fund at $320,300. We are now going to need another motion and a second to move that forward.
Yeah.
Is there a motion for that?
And if the committee wants to, you could, if everybody's in agreement that four of them are good to go, you could do those as a
Ooh, thank you, Sarah. Are we good with that? Okay, any disagreement with that? Okay, so we have four projects in the shopping cart that we want to move into the actual real checkout through the checkout line, and that's the Mineral Hills acquisition, the baseball scoreboard, Crafts Ave, and the PV Habitat for Humanity. Is there a motion to move those four into the we bought them
I moved
category?
to buy those four projects.
Great, thank you, Chris Tate.
Second
Is there a
it.
second? Second
I'll
from
second it.
Martha. Of any further discussion on those four projects? Sarah?
Right, roll call
Sorry.
on moving those out of the shopping cart.
Hold on, we're back to Lemmy with a comment.
I guess just as per the last, like there is the possibility of bonding the open space project and then not bonding the pump track. So I guess I'm curious about like, this is without bonding, this is full, you know.
Yep, full.
Like I guess because why I feel this way is because the pump track, it's like if we have the money for stuff like that, great. But like, I don't know, but open space feels to me more worthy of investing bonding. Like I'm more willing to bond open space or public housing more frequently than I am, you know, like recreational stuff. So I think I'm just more interested in entertaining that. So I guess I'll make a motion to say yes and also add bonding the open space project so that we can have a more fruitful shopping experience as we're checking out on the other one. And if no one wants to second it, that's fine.
Well, I guess we have the motion that's already been made and seconded. So if people want to do that, they can vote no on this motion.
It'd be like a friendly amendment, right? Like I'm friendly
Right.
amend.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm a
okay.
friendly amending the shopping cart to say adding bonding to the open space project because that's about half as what the pump track is. So to me, I feel much better about if we're feeling scarcity about bonding something that feels a little bit less optional philosophically. So if nobody wants to second the motion and we don't want the friendly amendment, totally fine.
Wouldn't we wait? There's no such thing as a friendly amendment. So if it's a motion to amend, we need to second that and then vote on the amendment and then revote.
Okay, so someone help me out here. The motion was made to move all four through the shopping cart at fully funded. Lemming is now adding a friendly amendment to that to say that the Mineral Hills acquisition will be funded in full, but that would be bonded. And we need a second to that friendly amendment. So Lemmy's made that amendment or asked or put that out. Is there a second to that?
I'll second the amendment.
Okay. So we are now voting on fully funding three of those as is, and the Mineral Hills acquisition bonding.
Just voting on the amendment, right? We're
Voting
just
on the
voting
amendment
on
only.
this amendment.
Yeah.
Okay, someone
We
correct
only
me.
vote on the amendment and then we would vote on the whole motion.
Great, got it. Thank you, Julia, and thank you, Lemmy. So everyone get what we're voting on now? So we're voting on the
Before we vote on the amendment, Brian, can we have a moment just to flesh
yeah,
out where Lemmy is on that?
yes. Let's have a discussion about this.
All right. So, just for my generally speaking, I use bonding as a way to free up money and not necessarily a designation or prioritization of one program versus another. And so I look at the dollar figure. So, while I understand what you're saying, I think that for me, the purpose of the bonding is to allow us to move forward with the totality of the programs in front of us and have money left aside, but it's not about prioritizing the programs. And I'm comfortable with the amount of bonding we already have allocated for this round.
Further discussion on this? Okay, so we are voting on just the amendment, correct? Is that where we are? Okay, so let me has moved that we bond the 320,300 for open space. There was a second, correct?
There was, yeah, Julia.
Okay, Julie had the second. And now we are voting on that amendment. Is there any further discussion on this? I know it gets after a 2 hour meeting and people's minds get a little fuzzy, but I think we're getting close to being there. Sarah, you want to take us through a roll call?
So roll call on that amendment. Jeff?
No.
Lemmy?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Chris Tate?
No.
Martha?
No.
Paul?
Yes.
Devin?
No.
Chris Hellman?
No.
And Brian?
No.
So that fails 6-3.
Okay. Do we need to further comment on that, or can we move on now to the motion? Good with that? Okay. So moving on to the motion that was made and seconded to fully fund all four of these as they are. Again, Crafts Ave, Baseball Scoreboard, Mineral Hills, and the PV Habitat for Humanity. There was a motion, there was a second. Is there any further discussion on this? Moving out of the shopping cart into the back seat of the car. Okay, no further discussion? Sarah?
Right, roll call vote. Jeff?
Yes.
Lemmy?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Chris Tate?
Yes.
Martha?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Devin?
Yes.
Chris Hellman?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, 4 of the 5 are done. Moving on now. Last and certainly not least is the pump track. And we have in the shopping cart, I'm sorry, 561,000 to be bonded. Um, and now we need a motion to move that out of the shopping cart into the back seat. Does someone want to make a motion? Someone has to say something.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we move it out of the shopping cart just so we can have the discussion that we need to have. So let's move it out of the shopping cart and talk a little bit more about the nature of how it gets funded if we want to.
Okay,
7 seconds.
at
561.
561,000.
Yep.
Okay, so Julia made that motion to move out of the shopping cart at 561,000. Is there a second?
Devin.
Okay, Devon's second. Further discussion.
So it really just comes down to if we fully fund it, we'll have about $100,000 that's not historic, that's not earmarked for historic next round, and then we'll have the 250,000 that is earmarked for historic.
And correct. And I'll add too that I will work over the winter to identify any projects that are wrapping up or are not going to be using the entirety of their funding and get that back into the CPA reserves for use next round, if possible.
Of which there may be some.
So the risk would be that a larger project comes before us that isn't able to be bonded, whereas we know that this project, the pump track, can be bonded. So those are kind of the trade-offs.
Correct. Further discussion on this? Martha?
Sarah, I know this is probably not something you can do, but do you have any sense of how this will affect our bonding obligations going out if we bond this? Like you said,
It's hard to
39%.
say. I don't have a great picture of what interest rates look like. And the city has a exemplary bond rating, so that always works in our favor. Even when rates were high for other things, we were able to bond the last few projects out and get favorable rates. But it depends on how many years it is, and that's a conversation we could have with the finance director and bond counsel.
And you did point out earlier at the beginning of the meeting that several of our bonding obligations from years ago are expiring or being fulfilled, I should say, correct?
Yes. So what's
Mississippi Allard and Pulaski. I think there are three of them.
And so Pulaski Overlook has payments until June of 2027.
Okay.
And Florence Fields is wrapping up in late 26, early 27. Bean Allard just has a few more minor payments at the end of 2026. So a couple of years, and they're still hanging out for a little bit, but they're getting to the end.
But our big year is going to be fiscal year 27, when we're about $500,000 in bonding. So that would reduce the amount of other sources of revenue that we have, and then it goes down considerably after that.
Yeah. So next for fiscal year 2027, the estimated amount to have available for projects is about 1.8 million.
And that would be less if this project was bonded.
It would be less. Yep.
Okay. Does that help, Martha?
Yeah, it helps a lot. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'm spacing out here. What are we talking about? Where are we in the discussion?
There was a motion and a second to recommend 561,000 in bonding.
Thank you. And we're still discussing that. Okay. Any
Brad,
further discussion?
I think we're at the to bond or not to bond. That is the question.
Yes. Whether it is nobler.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? People comfortable with the bonding aspect of it?
Well, what the vote would be on depending on how we take it, so if we were to vote no on the motion, what we would effectively be doing is setting up a situation for a second motion where we would reintroduce it fully funded it or funded at this level, but without the bonding. Is that correct, Julia? Is that the way you're seeing it?
Or you could amend this and say, vote to amend by striking the words bonding out of this motion.
Okay, which way do you want to go? I look to you for guidance.
Well, let's
Yes.
vote on this bonded, and then we'll know. If you vote no, that means you still want the project, but fully funded.
With
Does that
cash.
make sense? So a yes vote is for bonding, and no vote is for, we'll have to make a new motion to fully fund it.
Plan B.
Okay,
Okay, how about this? No, and I can't amend.
okay, keeping it as it is. Any further discussion? So the motion we're voting on is to bond at 561,000. Speak now. Anybody else?
Well,
Okay.
I,
Oops,
I'll just
I
say
almost
this. I feel
almost
that
had it.
if this bonding passes, it puts more of a fundraising burden on the group proposing it, doesn't it?
No, because we could vote to not bond it and still vote at 561, which would put an equal amount of responsibility on the group to
But that
fundraise.
would be subsequent to a second amendment if this doesn't pass. If we turn down the bonding, then we vote again for full funding, right? Or whatever level we agree on.
Someone could make a motion to do
Whatever.
anything.
And if we
If this
don't
fails.
fully fund it, I personally would feel like that puts sort of a moral responsibility on me if I support the project to participate in the fundraising.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Okay, we're voting on the motion to bond at 561,000. Sarah? Julie.
Yeah, it just occurred. I keep going back to our spreadsheet and doing more math. And the other thing I did when I just did the math was, okay, so let's say we do bond it. Boy, what does that add to our coffers for the spring? It only adds $500,000. No matter what you do, we will spend the majority of our money in the fall. We're facing the same thing we've been facing every year. We spend our big bolus of money in the fall. So we just have to, foresee that spring. Is it a spring of $100,000 or maybe $500,000 that we can give? And either way, it's not a lot. We don't have a lot for spring projects. So,
Well, I mean,
Okay.
that's a different conversation. We've had it. We can, yeah, we can, no, and we can continue to have it. We should. But I think
Yeah.
for my mind, what I'm saying is, we're either going to give ourselves a $500,000 and change 600,000 to work with in the spring, should
Yeah.
something come up, or we're going to effectively say we really, unless it's bondable or historic, we're really not going to have a lot we can do in the
Right.
spring, other than, as you pointed out, a lot of small grants, which could be great, but
Yeah. And while the committee's been discussing this, I went back through the past few fiscal years just to see if there was any pattern. And it's all over the place. So it's like for fiscal year 23, for example, there were very few round two projects, even though there was sufficient funding available. So there was carryover to the next year. Fiscal year 2024, it was split almost totally evenly within $10,000 between round one and round two. Fiscal year 2025, $1.5 million in round two, so that was actually flipped a little bit, and then 1.1 million in the first round. So it totally varies from fiscal year to fiscal year. So that's not that helpful, but just wanted to give some perspective.
Bill said to us that the King Street project wouldn't come up until the fall of next year. That was important for me to hear.
Okay. Any further discussion on this?
I just think the fall that's kind of like inside baseball. If you're going to present a project, you should lean toward trying to get it on the table in the fall. And that's just the way Northampton CPC committee reality is. And that's it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Everyone know what they're voting on? Sarah?
Right, so roll call vote. Jeff?
Yes.
Lemmy?
Yes.
Julia?
No.
Chris Tate?
Yes.
Martha?
Yes.
Paul?
No.
Devin?
No.
Chris Hellman?
No.
And Brian?
Yes. Let's say 5-4, is that correct?
Yes, so that passes 5-4.
That's
Okay.
like a Supreme Court decision.
No, that's 6-3 now.
And equally as momentous. So we have moved out of the shopping cart into the car, and we are done for our allocations for this round. Now is the time to, for better or for worse, we've moved there. Now is the time, if we can just hang in there for a little bit more. And if we can take a look at the council orders that Sarah submitted to us, there's really no conditions that are set forth in any of those 3, 6, 7, 8 projects. Remember, 3 of the small grants and 5 of the ones that we voted on today. I don't know if folks had a chance to look at those council orders, and if there are any questions or comments. Whether if we're not able to do this tonight, we'd have to come back in 2 weeks, and we can certainly do that as well.
You can, no, you could not come back in 2 weeks. So this needs to go to city council for the December 4th agenda
Got it. Okay.
because the
Well,
council's
scratch
turning
that.
over.
Did folks have a chance to look at these? Martha?
Yeah, I thought they looked really, really good, and I just saw 2 typos that I thought should be changed. One is on Pioneer Valley Habitat, and the other is on the Meadow City project, the sign project.
And Brian and I fixed a couple typos earlier. Like
Okay.
I had a date wrong in one of them. Brian, what was the other one?
I think it was Mineral Hills, or
Yeah, it had a repeated phrase. So we fixed
yeah,
it. But
yeah, and then we fixed the date. We fixed parentheses, I think.
And on the
So
Habitat
what was yours, Martha?
on Habitat on the third whereas it references the houses and it's only one house.
house.
Great, thank you. Good catch.
And then on the Meadow City project, this is the tree project. I'm sorry, it's the pollinator garden project. The second whereas it talks about, it says the projects, and it should be it's one project.
2 S's deleted. Thank you, Martha.
Thank you, Martha, for those. You're always good at catching the little stuff like that, which is not so little. Other catches or questions or comments about the proposed council orders? Sarah will fill in the numbers as voted for us by us tonight. Other than that, are there any conditions that we are setting on any of these projects? No? Sarah, do we need a roll call to accept these council orders?
Yes, but you can do them all at once.
Can we accept all at once? Okay. Is there a motion to move forward the seven, right? No, eight council orders as amended by Martha and a couple typos that Sarah is working on?
So moved.
Thank you. That was Chris Tate, right? I'm sorry, that was Paul. A second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on moving the council orders forward? Okay, Sarah?
All right, roll call vote to approve the council orders. Jeff?
Yes.
Lemmy?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Chris Tate?
Yes.
Martha?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Devin?
Yes.
Chris Hellman?
Yes.
And Brian.
Yes.
All right, unanimous. Thank you.
All right. Devin brought up the issue, and this was actually recommended to her by Dave Rothstein to move our small grant threshold up from what is now at $3,000 into something more than that. If we hit 10,000, it brings into some weirdness. So we would certainly want to stay under that if in fact we were to increase that. Devin, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, though, Brian, I'm kind of worn out at this hour. I'll make a proposal to increase it to $5,000 and just see if that is a short discussion. If it's longer than that, I think we do it in the next round.
So Devin, would that also increase the total project price from 6,000 to 10,000? So just double and make it so that it's congruent. So now it's 3 and 6, make it 5 and 10.
Okay.
Explain that, Sarah.
So the small grants process is available for currently for projects that have a CPA ask of no more than $3,000 and a total project cost of no more than $6,000. So Devin's motion would raise that to CPA ask of $5,000 or less and a total project cost of $10,000 or less.
Devin, that sounds good to
When
you?
when we implemented that $3,000 small grant, like how long has this
That was
been in place?
a decade, I want to say,
Oh, my
or
goodness.
better.
Longer? Less?
Sounds about right. Yeah, I
So
mean, Dave.
just to throw in 2 cents and going off of what Chris said, when I saw Devin's proposal, I actually adjusted the 3,000 for inflation.
Yeah, that's what I'm
But
doing.
yeah, and the purchasing powers, it would the 3,000. I used 2008 as the base year. But if it's less than that, it wouldn't be as dramatic. But 3,000 in 2008 is worth about 4,500 now. So a raise to 5,000 would really only be an incremental increase in purchasing power. So in fact, to raise it to 5,000 would basically keep it where it is.
Yep, I was doing that. I was on the inflation calculator as you were bringing that up, Chris. That's
I, and,
exactly
and
where
I
I
su-
was
and I
headed.
suspect your inflation calculator is better than mine because I was using
Oh,
DoD inflation numbers, but it doesn't. Either way, the point is that the increase wouldn't really mean an increase of that significant amount.
And it was 2015, so that was 10 years ago.
Okay, so it's probably about 1,000 more now.
Well, I'm happy to see this as a trial year, and if we are comfortable with it, and I mean, I hear you. It's not making a big difference in the project size, but at least we're fixing the fact that we haven't revisited it. And if we need to, if we came at this next year or a year after that and said, maybe we should beg in larger than that, we could always come back and do that.
Okay, so Devin is suggesting 5,000 at the CPC amount for projects coming in at not more than $10,000. Is there discussion about this? It's always hard to bring out new proposals at 9:25 in the evening.
Yeah, and I only wanted to include this on the agenda to make sure that it was, if we were to make a change, that it would be for the next round and we wouldn't be delaying that.
Yeah,
Why don't we move it? Let's have a motion, then from the motion, we can have discussion. So I move, we increase our small grants to 5, maximum size of project to 10.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, I think that was Chris Tate seconding. Further discussion?
I'll say the only other discussion point is, could we make sure to looking at the amount of money we allow for small grants on our agenda at a minimum every 2 years?
You mean revisit the cap number?
That's right.
Sure, yeah, I'm with
10
that.
years is a really long time to
Yeah.
sit on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good. Everyone's frozen on my screen? No, we're back. Okay. Says your internet connection is unstable. I think it's my brain is unstable, but that's okay. So there's a motion and a second for $5,000 CPC limit for small grants with no projects not to exceed $10,000. Any further discussion? Sarah?
All right, roll call on that. Jeff?
Yes.
Lemmy?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Chris Tate?
Yes.
Martha?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Devin?
Yes.
Chris Hellman?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes.
All right, unanimous. Great. I will make that change.
All right.
Dave would have been proud of us.
Yeah. And thank you, Devin, for prompting us with that. And Julia, let's just remember it's up to you to remember in 2 years to revisit this issue, if not before. Yeah. So as we always do at the end of the round, and at this point, we will not be meeting again until February to do a quick little debriefing while it's fresh in our minds. I know it's late, but usually we do a quick go round, what worked, what did not, any recommendations for moving forward of things that we can do differently. Um, if folks have specific ideas, uh, just a quick go round, Martha.
I don't really have any thoughts at the moment, but thank you.
Devin.
You indulged me in my raising the small grants. That's what I wanted. Thank you very much. Otherwise, I think we've done a good job.
Chris Hellman.
As always, I want to just express my appreciation for your even-handed leadership of this committee, and of course Sarah for her just all the heavy lifting that she does to support us. We couldn't do it without y'all, and I also appreciate the fact that we treat the process as one of mutual respect and also a living process where, as we see things that we feel are in need of change or at least discussion, we're comfortable doing that, and that has to do with the comradeship that we're able to share on this committee, and which I really appreciate.
Paul.
Well, as the newbie in the group, I have to say that I've learned a lot tonight, especially about the issues related to bonding. And I'm impressed by the sincerity and respect that people are showing to one another with very robust discussion. And I also am really pleased. I'm proud to be on this committee and what we accomplish. And I appreciate the work, Sarah, that you do, and Brian, your leadership. It's really nice to see. So thank you, everyone.
Julia.
Yeah, I echo everything Paul said. I do have one logistical issue I'd like us to think about, which is we read the applications, we do site visits, we then have a meeting where we invite the applicants to come to speak to us. I would love for us to time limit what the amount of time that our applicants have, maybe limit the number of people per group that speak, and make sure that we're giving equal time to each group. Because I did hear from one presenter that they felt they had to get it all in really quickly after another presenter went, and I think that was not fair.
Good suggestion. Let's see, Chris Tate.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, as always, Brian, for your leadership, and Sarah for all of your help and getting everything together for us, and thank everyone else for the discussion. This has been a good round. Thank you.
Lemmy.
Yeah, I love this committee so much. I go around talking about like how earnest and like just like I feel like this is what yeah, like this is what democracy looks like, whatever. But I just like really, really appreciate the genuine tensions that we all hold together. I think something's coming up around for bonding for me around like, personally, there's things I would go into debt for and things that I wouldn't. And if bonding is just this sort of like what, it's like hard to find the bottom line of like we don't have the money with bonding in the picture, I guess. And I'm sort of curious about ways we can think about that, but it's like, we all individually do it, but is there like a moment before we even hear from applicants or something where we can kind of explore, like all kind of talk about our priorities or something, and just so that we're not kind of like in them in weeds when we're trying to talk about something big. Like I feel like that happens fairly frequently, but I also really like that we can be like navigate that as it comes up, and I don't want it like a rubric or guidelines or something because then we'll all just like be like, well, this is technically guidelines, and then I don't really want that, but um, yeah, I just noticed that sometimes we want to go out, but we're usually in the minutia. Something's bringing up the bigger thing, and I don't know the answer. But yeah, Brian, you do such a great job at sharing. And to Jeff's point about like, the fall round is just kind of like when we have more money. I think we could just put that on the website. We could just like advertise that a little bit better, and then think of it the spring round as the cleanup round. Keep it the same. I think we like the two rounds, but just really we could just probably publicize it a little differently and solve a lot of the problems that we've talked about. So that's my 2 cents. And thanks, everybody.
Jeff?
I would second what Julia said on the time limit on the presenters. That was a problem that particular night, and again, if we could put some advance notice out if we're not already about the time limits. We usually don't have that problem, but this last round, this particular round, it was. But this is one of the best committees I've ever been on, and I've been on a few, and appreciate your leadership, Brian, and Sarah always responds in a timely manner, and it's much appreciated. Thanks.
Sarah?
Yeah, I thank you all so much for all of your time and careful consideration of all of these. It's really a pleasure to staff this committee. And if anybody has any suggestions for things that I could do different, I'd be happy to hear those. But thank you all.
And I'll just say, in this time of such acrimonious debate, in times where it's so difficult for anyone to volunteer for anything because of concerns or fear over being attacked in public or in private, and not having respectful dialogue, it just makes me so proud to be in this committee with such respect that people have for each other and for the process and for the common things that bind us together as a community. And I think we do really good work and should be very proud of what it is that we do. So my thanks to all of you. And on that note, any other business not foreseen when the agenda was published? Okay, Sarah, thank you for all your work on our behalf. We really appreciate it. Council meeting December the 6th, I want to say, is that correct?
4th.
That's December the 4th. If folks want to attend that virtually, and certainly feel free to do so. Otherwise, we will not see each other until February. Have a wonderful end of the calendar year into the next year. Julie, was that something, your hand going up? No. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Have a good holiday.
Happy holidays.